Hey guys, this is Nervous Rex. I'm Simon Rex, and this is really new to me, so I wanted to bring my dear friend slash podcaster slash mentor, Dr. Chris Ryan. You can applaud yourself.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Simon.
Well, you drove all the way from Topanga to Hollywood, which I know to you is a pain in the ass.
But it's midday, so it's cool.
That's why I scheduled it for this time of day, so you wouldn't be. Was traffic bad?
Traffic. There were a few minor slowdowns, but I was listening to Michael Cohen's testimony to Congress, which is scintillating.
Okay, so I don't know about politics, nor do I pretend to.
Right.
Michael Cohen he's Jewish.
Yeah, but he seems Italian. He talks like this. He's from New York.
You know, us Jews and Italians were cut from the same cloth.
There's kind of a Jewish mob in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you sure don't want to fuck with the Israelis. Can I say fuck on your podcast?
You could say anything you fucking want.
Good.
Just be careful with the Israelis. I don't know.
Anyway, Michael Cohen was Donald Trump's fixer for 10 years. Okay. So he knows all the dirt, and he's testifying before Congress.
He was live today.
Right. Yeah.
He was on Instagram
so I know
live.
this won't come out, today, so I'm dating it. This will come out.
He'll be in prison
4
by the
years
time
from now.
He'll be a free man by the time this comes out.
He'll be in and out of prison. The ice caps will have melted.
He will be
Florida.
post butt fuck in prison. Right. Okay. Good.
Post butt fuck. PBF.
Yeah, I remember once you had me on your podcast, and you had me with a very intelligent guy from the Young Turks talking about politics, and I never felt more out of place in my life. And it was right. I don't know if you remember this, but you
Malcolm,
had yeah, and you guys were just sitting there talking about politics, and you kept asking me if I knew what you're talking about. I have no fucking idea what you guys are talking about. You're like, good on you. Don't pretend to know.
Yeah.
I'm not educated on politics because it just, at the end of the day, I see so many people getting worked up, and at the end of the day, like I was up with my buddy the other day, and we walked into a restaurant, and he was like, okay, if you walked in this room right now, can you tell who's president if it was Obama or Trump? Is there any difference? I'm like, well, we live in LA, so no, but you're right. Like at the end of the day, I see so many people getting worked up, and what are you going to do about it, and how does it affect your day-to-day life? I see my mom go crazy. Like I walk downstairs when I'm visiting my mom in Lake Tahoe, and she's just hunched over her iPad, upset and concerned with. I'm like, you're going to live a shorter life. Like fuck. I quit watching the news for 1 year, and I felt. This was before Trump became president. I quit watching the news for a year purposely. I deleted all the apps off my phone, and I was in a state of ignorant bliss. Yeah. And now you can't take your eyes off of what's happening because it's pretty historical shit.
Well, you're right. I think about that a lot. That's a real conundrum. Half the time I think I should be paying attention to this with like great focus because this is a historical moment. This is really the collapse of Western civilization that we're witnessing. Holy shit, this is amazing. But then the other half of the time, I look at my day and say, Jesus, I spent all day watching YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, and I didn't get my work done. I didn't do anything that's lasting or valuable. I haven't read a novel in I don't know how long. I haven't just sat in the woods and chilled out. Our buddy Kyle Tierman was just on a 5-day silent retreat.
Right, which I want to try. I need to try that because I'm very, is the word loquacious?
You're pretty loquacious. Yeah, it's a good word.
I talk a lot. Yeah. I need to shut up for 5 days. I could benefit from I just talked to him about it, and he was like, dude, after 2 days, he's like, the first 2 days is fucked, and then you gotta go on cruise control. Yeah. And then you start having these really... you go deep into your psyche. I mean, the fact that you can't talk, you wouldn't believe what you go inside that deep. Yeah. I want to try it.
Yeah, I've done it. I did. I don't know if he did.
Vipassana?
Did he do
Is that
Vipassana?
What, yeah, it was a form of Vipassana, but it wasn't the 10-day one. He did. Yeah, but it was Vipassana.
Yeah,
it was a
I did the 10-day one.
And when did you do this?
Which makes me twice. You're twice as the man he is. Yeah.
Yeah, you're highly evolved compared to Kyle.
I am the serenest.
There you go. Yeah. Now, what was the end result for you? Did it do anything for you? Did you go a little? I know people who have gone there and gone crazy and dipped out on day 7. Like I was losing my fucking mind. Like they couldn't sleep. They were just like, it was very trying.
It's intense. It's definitely intense. I mean, this was a long time ago. This was probably in the early 90s. I did it shortly after I moved to Spain the first time, I think. And I I mean, for me, honestly, I find meditation difficult because my back always hurts, my knees hurt, like my body always is like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
I'm not comfortable just sitting in the lotus position for 8 hours. And I didn't have like pillows and stools and like all the props that the pros have. So that was an issue. I was distracted by that. And then, when I finally got into it, a lot of my mental space was occupied with like an interior porn festival. There was a lot
as opposed to an exterior porn festival.
Yeah, it was all happening in my head. I wasn't watching it.
Right.
And you make no eye contact with anyone.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, there's no reading. There's no media.
No stimuli at all.
Nothing.
Wow.
You eat really bland vegetarian food, and the only conversation you can have is if you need some guidance or you're having some kind of problem. You can talk to one of the coordinators.
So
or
you
something.
could speak to them if you. I thought the whole point was not to talk at all.
Well, but it's only to help you if you're having a problem, right? If hey, I can't sleep, or I think I might be losing my mind, or or like I didn't understand the teaching yesterday about this and that. And the teachings are tapes of this guy Goenka, who was some master meditator or teacher. So even that is like it's just a recording. That's not a guy standing there talking to you.
I understand what you mean. Like I do meditation because my monkey brain doesn't shut the fuck up, and I don't smoke pot anymore. And pot used to sort of be my escape, and then the pot started making me think more, so it didn't work anymore. So now I'm just trying to find ways to get out of my monkey brain. So I do meditation, but it is very hard for me to get to that place of sort of blissed out silence. Like if anything, like playing basketball gets me out of my thinking brain more because you're doing an activity.
You're focused, yeah.
Even like going to yoga, I'm still thinking the whole time. So it's interesting to see what things work to shut the monkey brain up, which is a nice vacation from overthinking. And I'm trying to get there, but for me too, not physically but mentally, it's a motherfucker. I do the transcendental meditation where I just say a mantra over and over. I say a word that was given to me in a ceremony where
my dick.
That's my mantra is my dick.
Yeah.
And then I just visualize the dick.
Because it's funny, my mantra is your dick.
Oh, perfect.
It's
perfect.
great. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah. We should do it together sometime.
Let's do it. So for me, it's not the physical. His name escapes me right now. Who's the guy that wrote the Chappelle Show? Neil Brennan.
Neil. Yeah,
so he says that when he meditates, he has the same problem you do. He gets very uncomfortable. The physical. So he lays down to meditate instead because he can't handle the physical of the legs and the back.
Fall asleep?
I guess not. Or I think he does standing and laying. Like certain people do a different version, but then there's also like, the theory that you can meditate by just doing mundane things like walking or eating.
Right.
There's certain things you could do to kind of just
chop wood, carry water.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, eventually I found float tanks.
Right.
And my experience in float tanks, I remember the first time I did it, it was like at the end of it was 90 minutes. And at the end of it, I felt like I was waking up, but I hadn't been sleeping.
Right.
Right.
It's like forced meditation.
Well, not forced. I mean, you could lie there and think about your bank account and like shit you have to do tomorrow if you want. But I found it really easy to slip into that meditative state because I wasn't distracted by my body.
Right.
And also,
because you're floating. Got it. Right.
I'm 25 years older, so maybe I can like not think about pussy for 90 minutes.
Right. That's your ceiling, about 90 minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did the float tank once, but I did it. I don't want to say where it was because I don't want to badmouth them, but I did a float tank and everything was fine except that I could hear the restaurant next door. So it wasn't completely silent. So it was an older one. So I would hear clanking plates and it would take me out of it. And when I kind of get to this place of, I'm floating in outer space, clank, clank, it just took me out of it. But I want to do like the modern new ones. I'm actually going on Saturday down to a float place in Laguna Beach that has the Lucia light I was asking you about that you said your friend Duncan Trussell has. I actually hit up Duncan about it on Instagram DM. He said he has a different, not the Lucia light, it's a different one that they gave him, but it's similar. Basically, for you guys listening or watching, the Lucia light is a psychedelic experience where you sit in a chair just like we're sitting here and they put a light a few inches from your face that has these patterns that simulate
strobes.
Yeah, like a strobe, but they go right to the pineal gland and you could go into these deep meditative states. That's really forced meditation.
It's really intense, yeah.
So the Lucia, I guess, compared to the one that Duncan has, I did a little recon, and I think the Lucia is like the jam. It's like the $50,000 light, and there's only a few of them in the country, and there's one, so I'm going to go check it out.
Right.
And supposedly I just watched all these testimonials, people just come out just super blissed out. I'm like, well, if I could use a shortcut like that to get that meditative state, like just laying under a light, let's go, dude.
Yeah.
I want to try it. And who doesn't want a free psychedelic journey without the risk of losing your mind or anything?
Well, I don't know. You might still lose your mind.
You could. And then I asked them, I actually said, what if I was to do psychedelics during the light treatment? They said, why don't you just start just doing the light treatment? I'm like, all right, one thing at a time.
Slow down there, big boy.
Yeah. But
whoa.
Yeah, I want to try it because it looks so cool. And it's like you do, I think, 30 to 45 minutes under the light, and you just get blasted off into the cosmos. Who doesn't want that? I guess
a lot of people.
I guess. I mean, for me, again, I just got to get out of the fucking brain for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think your brain goes a lot faster than mine does.
What's that supposed to mean?
Okay. I was just thinking when you were talking, I was thinking how on podcast apps they have that thing where you can speed it up a little bit.
Or slow it down.
I don't know if they have it that you can slow it down.
Can you slow it down? I think they do. Yep.
Confirmed.
Cool. Confirmed.
Cool. Confirmed by so this podcast is funny. This is interesting. It's like we got we're in a studio. For people who are listening, this is on what, YouTube, Vimeo, where are you going to post
this
it?
is brand new for me,
Everywhere.
so everyone needs to forgive me and give me a little bit of space and learning room and get off my back, because this is very new. I haven't done anything like this besides being a guest on a podcast in 20 years since I worked at MTV, and I was interviewing people on live TV back in the 90s. When you fuckers were, I was interviewing Tupac on live TV stoned, and interviewing Howard Stern, and like I was just thrown into that.
You interviewed Howard Stern?
I did, for his movie Private Parts.
What was that like?
It was a trip. He looked at me after I was asking him serious questions. I was like, really like getting into my job, and they're giving me all these big celebrity guests, and I was like, I remember when I got the job at MTV, they hired me and they said, okay, well, we want to hire you to be an on-air, talent. I told them, I said, I have no journalism experience, no television experience, and no, I've never done anything like this. They said, perfect, you're the guy for the job. So they said.
So it's based on you just like your winning personality?
They just want weird new people that have never done anything. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live. They cast people that have never done anything before. They just want that. I don't know. They just see something. Who knows? It's like anything. It's a lottery. But anyway, right place, right time. And anyway, so I was interviewing Howard Stern at the premiere of Private Parts in like 1996 in New York City, Times Square at the premiere. And I'm asking him questions on a card, and he just looks at me. He's like, how am I supposed to answer a question? You look like you're 14 years old. And he just made fun of me, and I was like excited that he made fun of me. That was like, for him, that was a very light insult. Oh yeah. What are we looking at?
Oh, they're looking at you when you're young.
Howard Stern. Well,
there's a picture of you being young.
Simon. No, look up Simon Rex.
So anyway, I was telling people who are listening who don't know, like we're in the studio in LA. Behind us is the skyline of LA.
Yeah, smoggy city.
3 cameras set up.
Yep.
It's all super professional here. And there are people in behind a soundproof window.
This is very official, dude, and that's why I've recorded. You're technically my third guest in the order that I am recording them. Not sure what order this will come out, but I did 2 in my home yesterday. But I said, okay, I got Dr. Chris Ryan on. I'm getting him in the studio, dude.
Dr. Fur.
Yeah, I'm getting it official. I wanted you to have the full experience.
Well, it's a funny thing, right? These podcasts, like your buddy, our buddy, but mostly your buddy Theo Vaughn. You're going to have him on. He's got a really big podcast, Joe Rogan, But it's interesting the difference between like what I do, which is no cameras, no studio, just very minimal equipment. There's an intimacy to that I like, and like a basic kind of low to the ground thing.
I agree.
But then it's also cool that you have these podcasts that are sort of almost like half TV show, half podcast. It's straddling different media.
I think it helps get more viewers or listeners if you have a visual component to throw on YouTube and just show people. Like people want. I mean, Theo Vaughn's an interesting animated character who's interesting to look at with his haircut and his facial expression. So for him, I think it works.
And a lot of the people you're going to have on are pros. They're performers. So it makes sense to have a video component.
And people will want to see, Theo, what he wears. That you know what I mean? I think
people who don't know what I look like can just sort of imagine sort of a Brad Pitt
sort of.
Yeah,
sort of.
If Brad Pitt and Philip Seymour Hoffman had a love
There
child.
you go.
Yeah. That looked more like Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That's it. Yeah.
In fact, maybe Brad Pitt wasn't the real father.
Yeah, maybe more of Angelina Jolie, I'm feeling. So you're talking a little bit a while ago about when you moved to Spain. You lived in San Francisco. When I lived, I'm from the Bay Area, so we were both there in the late 80s. And then you went to Spain.
I was there for the big earthquake.
I was there too in 1989.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Spain and you were robbed of your passport. And then your life took a fortuitous path.
Right. Actually, I was intending to live in Spain for a while.
Oh, you were? I thought you were just going, okay. I didn't know that.
But my plan was not in Barcelona, though.
Right.
I was planning to live in Sevilla in the south. The plan was that I was waiting for the government of Burma to fall, because at that point, whatever her name is, Aung San Suu Kyi or something, had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. Right. And there was all this pressure on the military government. And Burma had been cut off from the Western world since World War II, right? So my idea was that government's going to fall any day now. The country's going to open up to the West, and I'm going to be in that first wave of Westerners who go in to teach English, and I'm going to be able to have this amazing experience of like going back in time.
Is that in Southeast Asia? Where is Burma?
Yeah, Burma's between India and Thailand.
Is that where the Burmese python originated?
No, that's from Burma, Ohio.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Different place.
Got it.
But so then I my plan was go to Spain, practice teaching English for a while, and wait for this, geopolitical event to occur.
Right.
And then I was going to get on the Trans-Siberian Railroad and go across Siberia to Beijing. That's like a 15-day train ride. And then travel through Tibet down into Burma, right? That was I was traveling a lot in those days, so I dreamt big dreams, But yeah, so on my way to Sevilla, I was in Barcelona. I got robbed, and while I had to wait for new passports and documents and shit, I got in touch with this dude that I had met a couple of years previously in the Barranca del Cobre, the Copper Canyon in northern Mexico.
Nice accent there.
Oh, yeah, I could really ham up the Barranca del Cobre.
You got the R.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Not to any real Spanish speaker can hear that.
Yeah, of course. You're a gringo.
I'm rolling in the back of my tongue, not the front.
Gringo, real sorry to cut you off. I want to hear the next story, but you know what gringo means? I don't know if this is true. Do you know what the gringo means?
I've heard different theories. Green go.
That's what I've heard. Like green, because during the Mexican War, the military personnel of the United States wore green. Gringo, like gringo. Is that true? That's interesting. Who fucking knows?
I don't know.
Because there's not a translation for gringo. Is there? Does it really mean anything? Is it a slang word?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. Now get back to your amazing journey.
So anyway, I met this dude, his Spanish guy, and since I was stuck in Barcelona, I found his phone number for his sister, and I called her, and she's like, Marcos, yeah, he's right here. And he's become one of my best friends. And then he hooked me up. He's like, dude, I have a friend who has an English school and needs a teacher. And I have another friend who's got a room and you should hang out and you should meet this chick. She's a good friend of my sister, And like within a week, I had a place to live. I had a job and I was hanging with Spanish girls and was like, yeah, they go hang for a while.
Cut to 15 years later.
Cut to 25 years later.
You lived there for 25 years?
Off and on, yeah.
Fuck. I love Spain. Yeah, there's a certain vibe there. I was just out there last summer and I was in, I'm not going to say Ibiza. I was in Ibiza. Okay, I don't do the Ibiza thing. My argument to that is you don't say I was in Iraq. You don't say I was in Los Angeles. So you don't say Ibiza. You say I was in. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I was in Ibiza, and the vibe, the people. There's something interesting about the culture of Spain. They're the most relaxed.
Yeah.
Different than Bali, which we were both just in. We could get into Bali in a minute. I know it's obnoxious to talk about a place because my whole life I'd never been, and I hated when people would like talk about Burning Man or Bali because you don't understand. You don't have a reference point. But yeah, Spain. There's something there. They're so fucking chill that I'm really a sensitive person. I sort of adapt to like when I get off the plane in New York, I start walking like a New Yorker and acting and thinking like a New Yorker. So when I go to Spain, I immediately chill out.
So you're very permeable.
Yeah. Is that what the word permeable means? Okay.
Yeah. Permeable is like a membrane that lets stuff come and go through it.
Okay.
And semi-permeable is like Gore-Tex.
Right.
That lets some stuff go through, but not others.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you're like the environment gets into you.
I'm permeable.
Yeah. And loquacious.
I am both. So I was there, and I remember looking around at one point, and we're just like out, and nobody's on their phone taking selfies. Nobody's fucking pound. There's not that frat mentality. Even the youth there is really chill. Like, there'll be like a 70-year-old person like dancing EDM music at 2 a.m. with an 18-year-old. Like, there's no judgment of like, oh, that person's too old to be here. What do you? There's just sort of this freedom to be.
You're right, man.
It's hard to explain, but I remember just looking around at some points going, wow, man, they got it figured out here. You know,
That's why I stayed.
You don't have to worry about rules as much, similar to Bali. There's not like the law's always over you. Like,
cops are cool.
Cops are cool. You don't have to worry about like in America, you're always worrying about getting in trouble. When you're on the freeway driving, you're in this state of fear. When you're parking, you're like, fuck, there's 17 signs and you're confused. And it's like, you're always running to the meter. It's like you're in this constant panic state.
Adversarial. America's adversarial.
Right.
The cops want to catch you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they've got a quotient to fill. They've got to, or whatever. Like you're growing weed. Well, they're flying over with fucking infrared helicopters trying to bust you. Spain, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
If you're not bothering someone, the cops don't care.
Right.
And even if you are, but like I had a friend who was smoking a joint in front of a school, right? And the cop came by and smelled it and came over to him, and the cop said, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, don't smoke in front of the school. There are kids here.
Right.
You smoke your joint, go over in the park there.
Right.
Like,
that's it.
Good sense, right?
Right. Common sense
Don't
law.
be a douche. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my theory about Spain, having, lived there most of my life, is what I love about the Spanish culture, and I think this sort of explains a lot of the things that you noticed, is that they have no problem with pleasure.
Right.
Right? Americans feel guilty about pleasure.
Yeah,
you should be working
sexually, recreationally with drugs.
It's sin.
The rules, too many rules.
It's evil. It's bad for you.
Now, where does that come from? Is that from the culture of America? Is that from TV, film, newspapers, religion? Is it all the above? Like, what creates a culture? Because it's so interesting. Like, my ex-girlfriend's from Canada, and you could be in like Michigan and have these weird, sort of American ways, and then you just drive 30 minutes north and you're in Canada, and it's a completely different world. Like, what the fuck is it? What causes that? Is that just over years of
well, think about it. Like the main influence in Canada, especially I think where she's from, is French.
Right. So they're very European.
So they're like, hey, we love good food, right? Whereas America is like, no, you eat that shit and get back to work,
Right.
I think it's a combination of Puritanism, which is the British influence, not the French, right? Or the Latin.
Canada's British too.
Some
British.
But and then it's also capitalism, right? Like America became the center of go get 'em capitalism, get rich or die trying. Not Canada, right? Canada is like more now. Life is, about So, and then you go someplace like Spain, and their whole attitude is like, come on, man, I have a job, sure, but my life is about my friends. It's about good food. It's about, everybody's got a month vacation. Everybody's got health care. So there's not this feeling of like, oh, fuck, if I slip, I'm falling all the way. There's a net.
Right.
And your family will look out for you. There's a strong sense of family, and we take care of each other, Whereas America, like, dude, you're on your own.
Yeah. It's every man for himself. And another thing I noticed when I was in Spain once, I was in Marbella. Is that right? It's on the south coast.
The south, yeah.
And I went there, and I knew this girl, and I was staying with her and her very wealthy family. She was like a niece of some very wealthy family. There was this amazing, huge villa. But then
all your friends are wealthy,
not
except
all of them.
me.
Yeah,
I'm your token normal.
You're not my friend. I remember they had this amazing mansion, all this money, and then they drove a shitty Jeep. And I remember saying, why don't you guys have this guy? Like, that's obnoxious. We don't need it. Why would I want that? Why do I want to draw attention?
Yeah, there are no fucking Hummers in Spain.
Well, you could get a Hummer.
You can.
I got a Hummer. Yeah, it's a trip, man. Every time I go travel around and I come back to America, I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here? I mean, obviously, this is just where I'm from, and my family's here, and this is where work is and where I belong. But sometimes you'll go to some places and you're like, I could just disappear here forever.
But there's
That's
good shit.
like.
There's really good shit in America.
Of course, dude. Of course.
I mean, like for example, getting sort of back to what we were talking about. I was in Spain when Starbucks came, right? And I remember everybody was like, "That's not going to work here," right? And initially, it didn't work. And one of the reasons is that a lot of Starbucks business is based on takeout coffee, right?
Right.
So Spanish people are like, I don't like. You rent a car in Spain, there are no cup holders,
right? Because they drink when they go somewhere.
You want a coffee, you stop at a cafe and you sit down and you have a coffee. right? Like it doesn't occur to them like, wait, why would you want to drink a coffee while you're driving?
Yeah.
Then you're not enjoying driving. By the way, all the cars are standard. There are no automatic cars. So everybody's shifting gears and like integrating with that experience. And then you want a coffee, you sit down, you have a cortado or a café con leche, and that's it. It's good coffee. That's what you do. You enjoy it. So enjoying life, if you're not enjoying life, it's like, what are you doing? Like you're doing 5 things at once. You're not enjoying any of them, right?
I remember I had an Italian, my modeling agent I had when I was in Italy when I was like a kid. She would say, she smoked a lot, and her name was Maristella, and she was from Milano. And she would say, we'd be walking down the street and she'd light up a cigarette and stop. And she's like, I don't like to walk and smoke at the same time. If I smoke, I like to stop and have a cigarette. Why would I walk? And I was like, it's the same thing. Similar. I mean, Italy's right there. It's similar
it's very similar
in their quality of life.
Yeah, it's Mediterranean. By the way, just this morning, I read the latest World Health Organization report came out.
The WHO, I call them.
Or WHO. You can call them WHO.
Oh, shit. It's an acronym.
The WHO, yeah.
It's an acronym.
Pete Townsend's really a big part of the World Health Organization. Okay. Anyway, number 1 healthiest country in the world.
Don't tell me. Let me guess. Okay, is it in Europe? Spain.
Ohio. Yeah.
Spain? Oh, wow. Because the stress levels.
I guess stress
they
level.
Eat, they smoke, drink.
They
eat,
smoke, they drink. Everybody drinks.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I got there,
happy,
somebody said to me, "There are no drunks in Spain, but everyone's an alcoholic."
Right.
And what he meant was, you don't see kids puking on the corner.
Right.
But people are drinking red wine with their breakfast. Yeah. It's like crazy.
It's not taboo. They don't look down on...
Because it's pleasure.
Right.
I come to the U.S. after living there for 20 years, go out. I mean, when I first got to L.A. and I was pitching TV shows and shit and talking to agents and producers and all this, we go out to lunch and I'd get a beer, a glass of wine. I could feel the table be like, what?
Yeah. Especially in LA. It's very taboo
alcohol
here.
At lunch?
Yeah.
Oh, does he have a problem?
Yeah, dude. No,
I got a problem.
Yeah. That's true. That's how it is here. LA, especially LA. America, totally. But yeah, LA especially.
But let's not piss on America because
I love America.
You and I are both podcasters.
There we go.
Now, welcome to the world of podcasting, Thank you. Simon.
Feels right.
And I got to tell you, like, I went back to Spain. I was in the Canary Islands for a while, and sort of, this is after I'd been doing a podcast for 2 or 3 years. So it was a part of my life that was important. And I was thinking about, like, okay, first of all, like, I got to get people who speak English, and I only do them in person, so I wasn't going to do the Skype thing.
Right.
And I was thinking, like, if I stay here, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Not just because of the language, but because I know a lot of cool Spanish people, but I don't know a lot of interesting Spanish people.
Right.
And I think that's because their culture's so damn healthy.
Right.
Right? It's
America has an edge that creates characters.
America's nuts.
Yeah. Right. Which makes for entertaining podcasts.
It makes for entertaining people.
I get it.
And also art and, I mean, you think about the best TV shows, the best movies, the best music, the best painting, the best, like anything in the last 100 years, it's probably coming from here.
Right.
And I had this Spanish friend, we were talking about this one time, and he said, Chris, the best and the worst thing about your country is you have no sense of the ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's a good one.
Yeah. So you got Jimi Hendrix could only be American. No Spanish dude is going to be like, well, let me restring the guitar backwards and play it with my tongue while I, swing my dick around on stage. Like that's not a Spanish approach to creativity.
Not too many places would allow Dirt Nasty, this character that I do, this rap character that I created 13 years ago that's a monster that I can't seem to kill off, that people seem to love and keep booking me. I don't think that would have worked too many places. It was a very, it's...
Look at comedy, it's not funny. Spanish comedy is silly.
Yeah, it's true.
It's men dressing as women and slipping, falling. It's like the most low level shit. There's not a lot of, there's not like Neil Brennan in Spain. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Theo, I mean, like the people that we really admire and respect, they're really smart.
Right.
They're not goofballs.
Well, and also if you think about it, like if you go to Europe, each country, it's like the states here. Like if the difference between California to Texas to to Louisiana to Florida to New York, it's like the difference between Spain to Italy. It's so diverse from one country. There, it's the food, the accents. I mean, there's such a range here that there's so many colorful characters that you get a Theo Vaughn or you get a New York neurotic Jerry Seinfeld from New York. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know what I mean. You just get these different sort of characters that are born out of the diverse culture that we got. So I think we have the vastness of so much mixed in with our, don't give a fuck ways. At the end of the day, you get some interesting podcasts. You're right. Like, I couldn't imagine doing this too many places in the world. Yeah. Maybe Europe. I don't know.
Maybe London, if you're really hooked in to British culture. But
so this is new to me. Forgive me, everyone. This is we didn't even really introduce you. So you are Dr. Chris Ryan. For those of you guys listening, I probably should do this at the top next time. Well, you got a new.
Are you gonna do intros that you tack on to the front? Or
that's
just
a good question.
Go right into
I don't know. I think maybe I should, even if it's a little 5-minute catch up and be like, hey, I talk with. So I could do that.
Are you gonna have sponsors?
Eventually, yeah. So if anyone wants to, get on board.
Hey, shout out to sponsors. Yeah. I mean, because you're probably gonna do that. So that's what I do. I always forget, but then I record the intro later.
Right.
So you don't need to mess with it.
So I don't want to just copy what you do, but I love the first time we met, you came over to my place. So let me do a little backstory. I read Chris Ryan's book, Sex at Dawn. It answered a lot of questions for me that I internalized and was wondering about, because I have a lot of problems with relationships, and I needed some answers to why I was the way that I was, and it just opened up. It just was really interesting to me. So I hit you on Twitter, and I said something like a bad joke, like, "Oh, your book was more informative than Dan Rather in the '80s," or something silly. But it got your attention. You hit me back. You're like, "Hey, dude, do the podcast," and you came over to my place. And you go, hey, man, this isn't an interview, just so you know. It's just two dudes talking. And I really like that structure, and that's kind of how I want to do this as well. I don't want to make it be like I'm sitting here with a list of questions. And so I think it'll take form. But for now, I want to just kind of have it be a couple of dudes talking. But I think when I get a guest in who I don't know, like I know you, I may need to come in with a prepped, do a little homework, a little recon on the guest, so I'm not just sitting here shooting shit, because I could do this with you all day. Yeah. But maybe someone I don't know, it could fall flat, and I'm going to need to fall back on something. So.
And also, it's an expression of respect for the guest, right? If somebody comes in who's written books and you don't even know the name of the book, or you don't know what their area of expertise is, it's lazy. It's lazy. I mean, I've been guilty of that. I gotta say, because I take a super low intensity approach to it. And my thing is we're just you sat down next to me on a 3-hour bus ride. And we started chatting. Right. So I kind of want to discover you as we go if I don't know you. But I did that a couple of times, and I felt like, oh, I'm fucking this up. I'm missing an opportunity here. No, I don't have time to read everybody's books. Right. You know what I mean?
But you could go
at least
online
know
for 5
what
minutes.
It's about. Yeah.
Well, you said something that I remember too. When you told your dad, maybe I'm wrong. Did you tell your dad when you wanted to be a writer? He said, just write like you're talking to someone in a bar. That's kind of similar to this, and just make it really personal. Yeah. It doesn't need to be too formal. That's why I listen to so many podcasts, is because everyone's tired of the 5-minute forced canned, lobbing up, slam dunking jokes that are set up to, for a comic, for instance, goes on the Tonight Show or whatever. And it's obvious that they set up a joke for them and they're just promoting their movie, and you don't really get to know the person. Yeah. So this is a great way to, so many people are just, it's changing everything. I mean, it's such a great platform. Just even being the guest on so many podcasts over the last few years, I've gotten turned. I found you on Rogan. It ends up being this chain of events. I'll see someone on your podcast or listen to someone on your podcast, then I'll go down a wormhole of on YouTube of their shit. So it's sort of this infinite sea of knowledge out there, and you find the people you're attracted to and the things you're interested in. And it's a great way to learn.
It's an interesting moment historically. I mean, you're old enough to remember when there was no internet.
I'm 44 and a half years old. I have the body of a 43-year-old. But I lived half of my life without internet and cell phones. So I'm lucky. I was the last generation to really live into my adult years without it. And then now I'm fucked and I'm plugged into the matrix.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool though in a lot of ways, because of the sea of information you're talking about.
I'm right down the line. Up to 20, literally half my life was no cell phone internet. Right. It's back in the days when you had to be a man of your word. It's like, hey, meet me at 3 in front of, you had to be there. It was a different.
Read a map. Figure out how to get places.
You had to use your brain.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's really cool what you're talking about. That you can do that. You can see someone on a podcast and just explore their thinking really easily.
You can explore their regalia. Now, can we talk about your new book yet, or is it not? Is it too far out?
We can talk about the book's coming out in October.
Oh shit, that's actually coming sooner than that. Did you finish the final draft, the notes when we were in Bali? So we were just in Bali. Chris and I were just in Bali together, which is my favorite place probably on the planet. What was your experience like there? You loved it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Right?
it was my first time there. And it's funny, I had sort of, I don't think I told you this, but I had sort of a bias against Bali because a guy that I traveled with a lot over the years hated Bali, and he always talked shit about it. And so I just sort of assumed he was right because he's traveled a lot and more than me probably. But now I realize he's Australian, and he was ashamed by the Australians that he saw like on Kuta Beach, the surfer bro dipshits.
Yeah.
And that was his experience. I don't know that he ever even got to like Ubud or, other places that we went to. So I was expecting to be super commercial, very like, Cancun kind of.
Right. Which there's parts that are.
I guess, but we avoided them.
I felt
you
like
took me to. Showed. I was lucky also that you showed me around
my friend
and you
Stephanie's
knew the place.
villa. We got a very home that nice home environment with a family, a local family, taking us around, eating some authentic food. Like we didn't do it the tourist way.
Exactly.
I love that place.
Was great.
I'm going back for my 4th time in 16 months. I've never done that anywhere on the planet Earth in my life. Gone back 4 times, especially a place that's 20 hours to get to.
That's a long flight, man.
And you know what? It's worth every you don't take sleeping medication because the life hack for me is you take a fucking Ambien and a glass of wine and it helps a lot, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not promoting that to anybody, but for me, my monkey brain won't shut up on a plane and I'm sitting coach because I'm not going to spend $8,000 on a ticket. I'd rather spend $1,000 and have the $7,000 when I get there.
Yeah.
So I'll be uncomfortable, but I can't sleep sitting like this. So here's my trick. I go to Ross, I buy a $9 pillow that I throw away when I get there. I get a window seat, try to get that extra leg room if possible for an extra $100. Fucking Ambien and some red wine, and dude, it helps, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to give you travel tips. You know what you're doing. You're a traveled motherfucker.
I've done that. My wife's a psychiatrist. She
Right.
used to hook me up with the high. I don't know if it was Ambien or what she gave me, but I didn't. I forgot this time. And I tried to just power through, and 9 days later, I'm still suffering from it.
So you're just getting back to schedule. Coming back is a motherfucker, isn't it?
Yeah, coming east is always harder.
Because when you get there, you're excited to be there, and you're out, and you're staying up, and you're sleeping less because you want to, see it all. For me, at least, I'm in a little more of a hunter mode.
I think it's an east-west thing too,
right?
Because I traveled West Coast to Spain back and forth many, many times. And coming to California is just like you wake up earlier. You're like a fisherman. You're a farmer.
Right.
I'm going to get a lot done today.
Right.
You go back that way and you're like, falling asleep at 2 PM, like all freaked out.
Right.
Man.
That's true. That's it. So you've been based out of LA for how long now? You were in Portland for a minute. Now you're here.
Portland, Vancouver. I've been here, I don't know, 2 years.
You staying? That's it?
I think so. Maybe.
You planning on staying for a while? Where do you see? Where could you see yourself? I mean, this is a good place for your podcast. I feel like this is a good hub for you because you get like we're talking about, but especially LA, you get the guests. Constantly people coming through town.
It's hard to imagine. I mean, I travel a lot like you do. Summers, I take my van. I'm going to do like a 4-month van trip again.
We're going to talk about the vans in a minute because I copied you on that as well. So, but go ahead and then we'll talk about vans.
Yeah, your life is really basically just like a copy of mine with like hotter chicks
Pretty much.
And bigger vans.
Right.
And,
What is my van bigger?
Yeah, your van's
I got a bigger
bigger.
van.
You got
it's a couple inches bigger.
It's thicker.
Yeah, it's a little thicker, right? Got more girth. Wait, so let's talk about the vans for a minute. I saw what you were doing with your Sprinter conversion van, and I saw some other people I know, and I'd follow some Instagram accounts where I was watching these people live this amazing life on the road and traveling, and you just get up on a whim and go drive up to watch the eclipse, or go to East Oregon and sending pictures. I'm like, dude, this motherfucker's killing it.
I gotta say, you impressed me too that you actually went for it. Because a lot of people, like, they see my van and see what I'm doing. They're like, dude, I would love to do that. It's so cool. Blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. But you actually, like, you're like, hey, I saw the van. I'm gonna buy it. I'm like, really? Okay.
I think I got a good one.
You got a good deal.
So I was looking at Sprinter conversion vans because I was gonna do exactly what you did, and I was doing all my homework. And once I get into something, like, I get obsessed, and I spend all day on the computer looking at ideas. And the Sprinter van was the way to go. And I was driving down to the Mexico border, test driving them at like used Mercedes dealerships.
I remember that.
I found a good one. And it was
Yeah.
just, you know how it is when you walk into an apartment or you test drive a car, or you meet someone, you just know viscerally if
Right.
it's your home or your vehicle or the person you like. So it was the same thing with, I was just driving. I'm like, yeah, it's nice, but this ain't mine.
You don't
so
feel it.
one day
Yeah.
I was walking through Venice and I meet this hippie guy in his, 2001 Volkswagen Winnebago Rialta, and he's sitting in it. It's for sale. And I walked inside. I'm like, this is it.
You felt it, yeah.
So I bought it, and I've been doing some work on it. I'm getting the solar panels on the roof. I'm putting a deck on the roof, a wood deck.
Nice.
So you could climb up on the roof wherever you are and just kind of perch
Sit
up there and have a beer.
Yeah. Is there room for 2 chairs?
Yes, 2 chairs. It's a two-person deck. Come on, I'm not
All
self.
right.
I mean, I am selfish.
All right, tell
but-
you what. Next time we do a podcast,
Yeah,
whether
on the
it's
roof.
mine or yours, we got to be sitting on that roof.
Done
How about
deal.
that? Yeah.
So I'm so into this RV life because I did the maiden voyage by myself. I did 2 weeks. I was supposed to go with our friend GB, but he bailed on me at the last minute, which ended up being fine because I did sort of the solo maiden voyage, and I just drove up the coast without any plan. I call it the no plan van. And I just drive up the coast and be like, oh, I'm in Oxnard at the beach. Here's an RV park.
Wait, this
And
was your first?
My first trip I did by
I
myself.
met you
When
at-
you met me,
yeah,
yes, exactly.
yeah.
You send me the coordinates to
Right, we
meet
met
you in
near Big Sur, Nacimiento Pass.
Right.
Yeah,
So you sent me
yeah.
the coordinates. Phone didn't work, but somehow the map took me there, and I just waiting for you for a few hours at this river on some stream. And you showed up with a bottle of wine and some dinner, and we cooked outside. I'm like, this is
Well,
what
I
it's
couldn't
all
let you
about.
be like all alone in
Yeah.
your first.
No, I didn't mind it. That's the
Yeah,
point. Is that I
yeah.
would. It was so fulfilling and so awesome to just get on the road and not know where you're going and wake up and open the door on a beach, and I'm laughing to myself, going, "Are you fucking kidding me? The world is my backyard and my
Yeah.
own." And what you don't realize when you get the RV that I'm learning now. First of all, it teaches you patience because you are going to be in a lot. Like the other day, I got stuck in Malibu on this dirt road at night, and I was stuck, and I had to call AAA, but my phone didn't work. I kind of started stressed out. I'm like, dude, you have to talk yourself down. Be like, dude, it's fine. It's all part of the adventure.
Right.
You know, you have these moments where shit could go wrong because you're out in the
Yeah.
wild. You know,
Yeah.
you're not safe in your little box with the.
Well, but also you
Well,
are.
you are, exactly.
Right?
It's
What's
both.
the worst thing that can happen? I'm stuck here tonight.
Right.
Oh, big deal. I got a
Exactly.
bedroom. I got beers. I got music. I got food. Who gives a shit?
Well, so
it's
this
fantastic.
This is
Yeah.
what I'm learning is that no matter where I go in the RV, it's my pillow, my
Right,
blanket. So it's like when you
right.
travel throughout your life, you're staying at a hotel. It ain't your bed. Your pillow fits your neck weird. The blankets smell different. Some dude was just there. It's like
Yeah.
it ain't your home. You don't sleep good. But when you're traveling in the RV, you're sleeping in your own shit.
Yeah.
Well, not your actual shit, but you know what I mean. I didn't
Yeah.
realize how important that was because everywhere you go, you just pull over. So I just went to I just took it to Arizona. My friend fought in the UFC. Shout out to Crone Gracie. Congratulations. And so I drove out to the fights, and on the way out there, I had the full yin yang experience in the RV in 3 days. I went with GB to my friend's healing center in Joshua Tree, Indigotopia, and he has sort of sound baths, and it's just a very peaceful, zenned out little zone out in the desert, all calm. Went there for a day, and then continued to go to Phoenix 5 hours later, and went into the pits of the fighting world, into the UFC. So
Wow.
within 48 hours, I went from this beautiful, majestic, meditative space into
Yeah.
literally 18,000 people screaming for blood like
Yeah.
the Roman gladiator days.
Wow.
And the whole time I was sleeping in my fucking bed. And then
With GB.
Well, we got him an air mattress on the floor. He's a big fucker.
he is big,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I learned real quick snoring is an issue in the RV.
Yeah.
I kept having to wake him up and throw a pillow at him, wake him up, try to race him back to sleep before he snored again. Anyway, so I get out to Phoenix, and my friend wins in the UFC. And afterwards, there's a party at a house that he had rented for this fight. And there's all these tough motherfuckers, all these, jujitsu dudes, and everyone's getting drunk. And at one point I felt the shift happening. It started getting a little rowdy. It was a lot of testosterone. It was 50 dudes and 4 girls in a house drinking, celebrating. And at one point it started getting a little
broy.
tough. And I go, I'm going to go out to my fucking bedroom in the driveway. And I just walk outside and go into my bed, laid
Yeah.
down, got horizontal, woke up in the morning. Everyone's like, yeah, good thing you left. People started fighting on the ground and doing jiu-jitsu tournament. I'm like, yeah, good thing I left.
Yeah.
And I just had my bedroom outside.
Yeah.
And no matter where I go, I got my space.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge.
It is huge.
So
and
thank
what's
you for
it cost? That's
Not a
the
lot,
thing.
dude.
Nothing. I mean, whatever.
Gas.
Whatever you paid for
Insurance.
it and
Insurance ain't
insurance
much,
and
yeah.
maintenance and whatever. It's not much. But I mean, my point is, that night it cost you nothing.
Right.
Right.
No hotel, no rent a car, no.
Right.
Yeah. No airplane.
No hassle, no bullshit.
Yeah.
You wake up, like you were saying, you wake up on the beach. like, okay, maybe you park in a state park, a campsite, costs you $20 a night or whatever. Fair enough. That money's going to a park, which is cool, right? Exactly. Right? It's not going to a stealth bomber or something.
Right.
But a lot of places, especially in the West, in the mountains, it's BLM land.
Right.
You park wherever you want.
Bureau of Land Management, for those of you who don't know. I'm learning all these things.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what it is too? It's freedom. Like I look at it. It's weird how a material object, like I'll look at it and what it represents is freedom. So it's not like aesthetically, it's like, it's a cool looking thing, but you know what that will give you is the open road, which to me, the open road and sense of adventure is what keeps me alive. And we've talked about this, you doing your anthropological research and hunter-gatherer theories. When I'm on the move is when I feel the most alive. And when I'm sitting in my little box stagnant and I'm just like sitting and feel the walls closing in, I don't feel like that's natural. But what feels natural to me is to be on the move, on the go, sense of adventure. What's around that bend? What's over that hill? Your brain hasn't seen these places that you go. It's so stimulating that it makes I feel a surge in my body that's so alive that it's a high. Like I'm just driving up, like that maiden voyage I took for 2 weeks up to Tahoe and all these places. And I'm just driving up these roads through Northern California and I'm like, this is the fucking best. And I'm by myself listening to country music and I'm just like, this is fucking great, So thank you for putting me onto that. I'm going to have that fucking thing for the rest of my life if it keeps up with me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. As long as I'm based in North America, I'm going to have either Scarlett Johansson or the daughter of Scarlett Johansson if she, whatever, if I need to move on.
And the size is perfect because it could go in the city, so it's like I can take it anywhere. It's not too, it's not like sticking out too much. You could park it. It's 21 feet.
And my thing is, I feel that same thing when I look at the van. It's like I feel that it's almost like an erotic thing, like because there's so much pleasure associated with that vehicle, And I'm not materialistic. I can't think of another thing that makes me feel that good.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but it's also, in my case, it's also really cool because I bought the van, and this guy who listens to my podcast, Oliver Thorpe, reached out and he's like, hey, I'd like to help you. I'm an auto mechanic. I'm based in LA. And I was like, I don't want to impose on this guy. I
met him with you. Great guy.
Yeah. And then he wrote again. And then he basically, he busted his ass nights and weekends and really outfitted it. He and I together, but mostly him. And so there's also this, and we've become good friends now. And so there's also this there's like a love for another person who, his generosity is everywhere I look in that van, his kindness. It's great.
I'm having the same experience with a guy. So I wanted to get solar. So what I love Instagram for this reason is I could post on Instagram and say, hey, anyone out there got a solar hookup? I want to hook up the van. And within an hour, I have 15 options.
And your buddy Dan, I'm in touch with him too.
Right. So then that's exactly right. So then all of a sudden I got a couple people that I don't even know. Like there's this girl that has a farm up in Northern California and she's called like Survival Chick or something on Instagram. She always has these beautiful models like plucking weed and farming up on her farm, and like I've somehow made friends with this chick because she keeps inviting me to go work on her farm, which I'm going to do eventually when the weather's better. And she goes, oh, you're looking for solar? Hit up Dan the Solar Man. He's in Malibu. He's the homie. So I look him up, hit him up. He's like, oh dude, Dirt Nasty, man, big fan, let's do this. So I roll up and meet him. This guy used to be a drug like Miami cocaine, wearing Gucci and Ferragamo. And
I love how you slip into Dirt Nasty accent.
Yeah,
cocaine.
Yeah, well, he was. Well, I met this guy and he's like a hippie, and he goes, "Yeah, dude, I used to be like a Miami fucking nightclub rat, and one day I go, holy shit, this is not the way to live." And he goes, "I moved to California. I live in a van. I said, fuck everything. I don't care about the money, and." He works on a farm up in the Malibu Mountains and lives in his van. I'm like, this is the guy I want to do my solar. Wow. He worked for a solar company for a few years, so he knows his shit.
He knows his shit.
Yeah, he knows what to order and how to do it. So I go meet this guy off of the internet. And now we have this cool bond because he's helping me make my dream spaceship mine.
Right.
And we're coming up with ideas together and we're standing on the roof. He's like, hey, what if you did this here? I'm just bonding with this guy that I met on the fucking internet. It's a cool guy. Now I'll hook you up with him.
Right.
And it's just sort of this communal everybody's out because he has the van life. He gets it and he knows like what would be good for me. And he's teaching me little tricks. And so you're just constantly learning. And like your buddy Stanley Krippner said, the one thing you want to do as you get older to stay young forever is carve new neural pathways in your brain by learning new things as you get older. And what better thing to learn than like working on your own van? Yeah. So I'm on the roof with this guy, fucking hooking up my solar panels and digging through the roof. And It's fucking great, man.
Yeah.
It's like the funnest project I've ever had. It's so fulfilling.
And then you also understand it better. So if something isn't working, you know what to look, you know, where the connector is. And if there's a leak, you know how to stick the silicone in there. And like, yeah, having your hands, I love it. Anyway, so you're talking about being based in LA. So I spent at least 3 or 4 months a year in the van doing what I call a vanthropology tour. And do the podcast on the road.
I'm going to copy that as well. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you do that.
No, seriously, that's kind of what led to this podcast. Was after I got the RV, I was like, oh, dude, I should do a mobile like something with this. So I got the music studio in there too, so I could mobile make beats on the road and record and just do sort of whatever it is. Like it's all going to take shape. But I saw what you were doing, and it was really
it's so
inspiration.
Cool.
It's so cool
because it combines that thing you're talking about, where how the social media allows this spontaneity and allows you to connect with different people, you know. And I mean, I had this amazing experience. I think I probably told you the story, but I was in the van going through Texas, and somebody wrote to me and said, hey, I see you're in Texas, if you get to Terlingua, you should look up my buddy Tony.
Tony Terlingua.
Yeah, Tony and Terlingua. And so I actually did go to Terlingua. I didn't even know where the fuck Terlingua was, but it's right next to Big Bend National Park where we were trying to go. We went, and they're like, the guy was like, all the campgrounds are full. You go back to the little town there, Terlingua, and spend the night and then come in the morning and I'll hook you up, right? It's like, oh, that's Terlingua. I remember someone wrote to me about Terlingua. So we go in this town, and it's like this dusty little sleepy town. Doesn't look like there's anything going on there. And I text Tony, and I was like, hey, some friend of yours who I don't know texted me and whatever, I'm in Terlingua, and I don't know. And I figured, you know, I won't hear from the guy. 10 minutes later, boom, hey, we're having beers down at the High Sierra, come on over. So I go over, Cassie and I, my wife and I, go to this little restaurant, and there are these people, there are like a dozen people sitting at a table outside, couple pitchers of beer. Hey, come on over, how you doing, what's up? So I sit down with them, and super friendly people, really cool. And the first thing I notice is there's this energy. And I say to the guy next to me, are you guys tripping? And he's like, oh, yeah, we had some mushrooms.
I love it. I love it.
All right, cool. So you guys ate some mushrooms. Now you're drinking beers, hanging out.
And Chris Ryan shows up.
And
like, what the
I
fuck?
walk into a party, yeah. And then somebody's like, he's like, oh, fuck, look how dirty my mug is. I'm going to catch a fucking disease. And someone else says, oh, shut up. It's good for your microbiome. And I'm like, microbiome? You guys know about the microbiome, right? Which, for listeners who don't, it's the microbes that live in your guts.
Right.
And it's a very important emerging field of research.
The second brain down there, right?
Apparently, these microbes, a lot of them produce serotonin and dopamine, all these chemicals that are crucial to brain function, seem to be related to depression and anxiety disorders. Obviously digestive disorders. So there's all really important stuff going on in the microbiome, and the American food system reliance on antibiotics in animals and chemicals that are used in plants as well disrupt the microbiome with all sorts of serious and, you know, unstudied health consequences. Right. So it's a big deal. Yeah. And I've had people on my podcast who are experts on this, and
so you're in Texas, and these.
And I'm in Texas, and these hicks are like, oh, microbiome, and I was like, oh, microbiome, hicks in quotes, right? Like I'm sort of like, oh, these are country people. This is like way in the middle of nowhere, right? And so I'm going to impress them with my erudite knowledge, which I tend to do.
What does erudite mean?
Erudite means sort of like highly intelligent and
something
and
I'm not
specialized.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, pedantic is another good word. You know that one?
Yeah. Well, God, you know, I do. Wait. Oh shit. This is good. This is good. I want to learn this because I just learned pedantic means, fuck. I just learned this the other day. I have it in my phone. Tell me. Tell me.
So pedantic is like when you want to come across as being really smart. So you're sort of full of shit.
So I should call this show Pedantic Rex. Okay, good.
I'm more pedantic than you are.
Okay.
You're not pedantic. What
was the first word? What was the first word? Ayahuasca. What'd you say? The word just a minute ago that means you're smart. You said they. I just
erudite.
Erudite. It sounds like a Greek. It sounds like a Greek.
Ayahuasca.
Okay. It sounds like a Greek philosopher.
Yeah. Erudites.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to impress him with my knowledge, and I said, a few years ago, I read an article. A guy was in Tanzania living with the Hadza people, who are these hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, and he took a piece of their shit and he mixed it up and he blasted it up his own ass to see if he could get a hunter-gatherer's microbiome
Holy shit.
going in his own gut, right?
Oh my goodness.
This is a true story because hunter-gatherers' microbiome is far more complex than ours is because of the shitty food and the antibiotics and all this stuff that we have that damage. Right. So we have a very... it's like the environment here. Like a lot of the native species have died,
right,
because of pesticides and industrial agriculture and all that. So our natural environment is far less varied than it would be naturally, right? Anyway, so I'm expecting them to be like, "What? Have the reaction you just had? Like that's crazy, man." Instead, he says, "Yeah, that's him."
What?
And he points down to the end of the table. And this guy at the end of the table is smiling because he could hear me.
And they're tripping on mushrooms.
Well, I don't know if he was, but the guy I was talking to was. And I said, "What do you mean that's him?" And he says, "Yeah." And the guy nods. He says, "Yeah, I spent half the year in Tanzania, half the year here in Terlingua."
Dude, what the fuck?
I was like,
what? This is what the van brings.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So this guy's name is Jeff Leach. He's one of the world's most prominent researchers in hunter-gatherer diet and specifically microbiome and how it affects immune response. I think Science magazine journal voted him one of the 100 most important scientists in the world. He's fucking amazing.
Wow.
And there he is sitting at that table drinking beer. So of course
that wouldn't happen if you bought an airplane ticket and rented a car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing leads to another. People reach out to you. So the next day I did a podcast with him.
That's amazing. It's fucking amazing, dude. That's
so cool.
It just opens up the infinite possibilities of life, which makes life exciting, because I feel like everyone gets stuck in these sort of, like, we literally live in, like your new book says, I got to read your new book, Civilized to Death, and your theory is that we live in a zoo and we're just basically humans in a zoo that you can see behind us if you want to show. When you're in the RV, you're out of the zoo. Because you're driving, at least in Southern California, we have
you're moving around in the zoo,
or you drive 2 hours east and you're in the open desert, or you drive up to the 395 and you're out in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's like you're in Montana. I mean, what we have at our living in Southern California is such an optimal place to have the RV life, because we have within a few hours such amazing places to fucking go.
Down to Baja, man.
Baja, 3 hours you'll be eating a lobster, drinking a Corona. Do they drink Coronas in Mexico? Is that a white man?
Yeah, they do, but they cost like 25 cents.
Right. That's what I'm saying. 3 hours, you're in Baja, in Ensenada, eating lobster, drinking a beer on the roof of your fucking RV. Dude, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That's pretty cool.
So I want to incorporate eventually the podcast into my travels as well. I did a couple test runs with it, and I got to ask you how you did this, because I had trouble with the humming of the engine while driving. I had trouble with the AC when it was too hot. It's a little tight to do it in there so I got to figure out the right way to do it. And my new team here, I think, is going to help me get the sound and the video and all this stuff right, because I think that'll be a good element to the podcast, is my travels, because I'm always traveling around by myself and with friends, whatever, and that's when you meet the interesting people.
Yeah, and you're gonna have, I mean, it's gonna be really great. You're kind of used to, I think, in a way that I wasn't. You're used to having access to people because you're sort of semi-famous, and if people,
I'm semi-hard, I'm semi-famous,
semi-erudite,
right? What does erudite mean again?
Intelligent.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. I'm a non-erudite.
Yeah, but for me, it's all new, right? Like for me, if I can say, well, you want to do my podcast, I got, roughly 100,000 listeners, then people are like, oh, okay, I got time for you.
Right.
Whereas before they might not have.
Right.
Like, hey, can we just hang? See, that's the other thing about podcasting. You can reach out to some writer or scientist or actor or comedian or whatever and be like, hey, how about we hang out on Wednesday at 1:00?
That's what we did.
Right. But it's like, if you're just a guy, they're going to be like, who the fuck are you?
Right.
No, I got shit to do.
Well, you have a good mix on your podcast of celebrities and then people that you meet on your walk of life that are really interesting people.
Right.
And that's sort of my approach to Nervous Rex, is that I know a lot of, without sounding like a douchebag, I know a lot of famous people that'll be interesting guests. And I also meet a lot of interesting people that aren't famous at all, that are some of the most interesting people are the non-famous people, quite frankly. Maybe they don't have they're not going to pique everyone's interest as much initially, but once you get down and talk to some of these, like one of my friends is in and out of jail his whole life. I want to sit him down and talk prison stories without putting him in a position of being a rat, because he's got to be careful of that. But like some of the people I know that just got the most interesting stories, and they ain't famous.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's cool is that, at least judging on your friends that I've met, you hang out with people because they're interesting, not because they're famous.
Right.
So your friends who are famous are also interesting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't see you hanging out with people who are famous and aren't interesting. That's not your criteria.
Right.
So the people who come on your podcast who are famous, it's going to be cool because it gives them a chance to be real.
Right.
As opposed to being that character they play in, on the street with strangers.
Exactly.
They can talk to you and open up. I'm looking forward to your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. And you've been, you've been kind of nudging me towards it for a while, and you'd say in a friendly way along the last year or so, you'd be like, come on, man, when are you going to start the podcast? And I don't know, like I've been in, just to be completely transparent, I've just been in a weird place like the last year, creatively and personally, that it wasn't clicking. Like I tried recording a few, and I feel like I'm sort of out of the mud in that creative funk. That's just not that you got to be creative to just hit record and talk, but it just didn't feel right. And now here I am in this amazing view of the city, and so it's a good thing that I waited, because timing's everything, and I think it's time now.
Yeah, and it's organic. I mean, that's why my podcast is called Tangentially Speaking, because I want it all to be organic. I don't go in with an agenda, and like we were talking about earlier with notes and all that, but also it's got to feel right.
Right.
Like you can't fake it, because it's a really intimate thing. If you're not reading from a script and you got to be you, then it's got to feel right. So I mean, I never wanted to pressure you.
No, you weren't pressuring me.
I knew you were going to do it, and like until it's the right time, it isn't the right time.
You cannot force a flower to open.
Exactly, grasshopper.
Oh, well, look at the time. We're almost at 1 hour exactly. I feel like we could sit here all day, but I want to be courteous to my attention deficit disorder audience that's out there. I mean, no offense. I mean that in the best way.
You're going to do about an hour?
I feel like this is a good set-off point, and also the way they got the studio needs to be used in about 30 minutes. So let's just, I guess we can wrap it up here, and we'll do part 2 another time soon from the roof of my recreational vehicle.
Yeah.
And
we'll do that one naked, right?
Yeah, we'll do that one naked.
All right.
No video on that one, or just
promised.
a prop from the waist up, the cowboy shot.
Or how about just the waist down?
We could do that. That's actually much better. So is there anything you want? Okay, so everyone watching or listening, Tangentially Speaking, Chris Ryan's podcast, Sex at Dawn, my favorite book of the year. But even though you wrote it 10 years ago, the year I read it 2 years ago was my favorite book of the year. And your new book coming out, Civilized to Death.
And
real quick, your next book you want to write is Minimal Steps to Optimal Health. What is that?
Well, it's a book.
Is that just an idea?
Yeah, it's an idea. I got to talk to my agent. I've got another idea for a book that I
love that
I
idea.
haven't told you about. Yeah.
No, another one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just not give too much away.
Yeah. I think after my experience with Civilized to Death, I'm going to start a program of not talking about books until they're done.
Yeah.
Because I talked about Civilized to Death so many times.
The podcast, it gets a lot of people.
And people. I've been selling Civilized to Death T-shirts for like 5 years.
I know.
Sold
you gave me
of
one
them.
when you came over. I'm like, this is 2 years later.
Yeah.
So I get it.
People are like, my shirt's worn out and the book still hasn't come out, dude. What's
so
up?
Interesting, because never before would an author have this position with podcasting. So it's like this would have been a normal thing in the past for any author who would have been podcasting to talk about their baby. So this is an interesting time, because you're someone who's doing both on such a high level. It's cool to see. So thank you, Chris Ryan.
I'm going to be more discreet about talking about the
live and learn,
babies.
baby. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having me.
Of course.
I'm honored to be one of your first guests. Man.
Yeah, you are, baby. So everyone out there, check out Chris Ryan's podcast. Check out his books. And anything else? What else do you got out? I mean, is there anything else I'm forgetting? That's pretty much it, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's wrap it up there. All right. Thank you, guys. Tune in next whenever. All right. Nervous Rex. Thanks.